First of all, let's define vibe coding for everyone who's heard this term and they're like, what's going on? What's happening?
Ooh, that's a tough question to start with. I think the loosest interpretation from my side is that vibe coding means you open your IDE, like Copilot or Cursor, Windsurf, any of these, and you go into the agent mode and you give it a task to do, and then you're just following along of what the agent proposes to you, and you run the commands, and you're mostly focused on interacting with the agent and not so much of what the code actually is doing.
And
like
you
you're not
don't have
reviewing
to-
the code all the time.
Yeah, and you don't have to learn how to code. Because I tried
Yeah.
GitHub Copilot. I was just chatting with it. I'm like, create this website, do this. And then it just tells me where to put the code.
Yeah.
So it starts working.
Yeah.
So how complicated can the website get with vibe coding? Can I build something that has a database? Or is it just like a landing page or a very simple app?
My rule of thumb would be you can get as far as you're having the patience to keep prompting, because, as you said, if you don't understand what the agent is actually writing, what the code looks like, well, then your only way of modifying, the functionality is by figuring out how to prompt. It almost becomes a quiz or like a game, right? Like where you're trying to, let me try a different approach. I like to compare this to image models, all right? You start with a simple prompt, you render an image of Paris, and then almost certainly you get something which isn't exactly what you expected. And then you start, rewriting it, and for some time there were like tricks to do that in Stable Diffusion and Midjourney by doing things like trending on ArtStation. And then you got closer to what you wanted, but at some point you either run into like a direction where you can't keep going anymore, or you just take it and move it into Photoshop, or in the world of Copilot into VS Code, and now you have to start learning how to code. So I think you can build a web page, you can build authentication, you can build settings pages and things like that, but you're ultimately always going to reach a point where the complexity is so deep, I guess, that you have to then understand what the code is actually doing, or you're building something and it doesn't scale, and it's super slow, and now figuring out a prompt on how to make it fast, and let's say it's a Shopify shop, and make it scale for Black Friday. That is when you have to be a professional developer, at least for now.
So right now we're using code to do basic things. In 2 years, do you think I wouldn't need a developer to build $1 billion company with just vibe coding, or we're still too far away from it?
I think you have to be a developer to be in the tech business, because what you can do with just the help of AI, not coding, everybody else can do as well. And as such, your business isn't really differentiated anymore from other businesses, right? Like if I can just prompt it in 5 minutes and build it myself, what do I need a SaaS service that I pay a subscription for, right? And so I think the startups will build in 10x, 100x more complex things that they're doing today with the help of AI, and as such are differentiating from those that are just vibing it. Now, there's lots of businesses where you don't have to code at all, like your YouTube channel, and there's many other YouTube channels where you can build out a brand and then hire a team to do a lot of these things. But I think the idea that AI, without any coding skills, lets you just build $1 billion business is mistaken, because if that would be the case, everyone would do it.
And then everybody has $1 billion company, which
doesn't work, right?
doesn't
Like
work that way.
who's paying the
exactly,
money? Yeah.
Exactly. Do you think we're going to have less or more developers in 5 years?
I think we are going to have way more developers, because it's so much easier to learn it. We talked about our kids earlier. Kids can just get into this by using Copilot and say, hey, how do I build a game?
Exactly.
And then they see games, when they go to school, when they talk to their friends, when they go to a ski lodge and they have a Nintendo corner. And so naturally, kids, when they explore these technologies, they want to learn it themselves. And so giving them an agent, a chat tool on the side to say, hey, this is how you can learn coding. This is kind of how you can fix your bugs.
Yeah.
This is kind of how you can unblock yourself, right? Like the most frustrating thing when you're learning something is you're stuck somewhere, and then you have nobody at home or in your family or friends that can help you with that, because they're all non-technical. So that's when we're saying AI is democratizing access. That's what we mean. Everyone who wants to learn it can learn it. Now that doesn't mean everybody who wants to learn coding then becomes a professional software developer, right? I think there's going to be much bigger range between consumer developers that build their own micro apps, personalized things, the
Yeah.
trip to Paris app to figure out this is the places we want to see, this is all the photos we took, and it's only valuable to you and your family or you and your friends, all the way to the professional developers that builds all these AI systems, all the agents that we see here on the show floor today. That I think is still going to be profession, and there's going to be the companies that are the smartest are going to hire more developers, because if you 10x a single developer, then 10 developers can do 100x.
100x. Yeah, it feels like we're moving with the developing. We're moving into like what websites used to be 10 years ago, when suddenly there are tools like Squarespace and everyone starts having a website. So they need designers who are not too technical, who have taste. So it's something like this, right? When everyone has an ability to code an app, they will still need someone to like take care of it.
Correct. And you wouldn't start a business today where you're saying, I'm building web pages for small businesses, right? Like every VC will tell you that's not differentiated. There is no moat. That's not the next $1 billion business. That's why I'm thinking, AI will generate so much bigger ideas that the same size of team can implement. Or as you grow your team, you can do even more than those that are just using AI for cost savings.
It's interesting when we talk about this, when I tell this idea to my followers, like, hey, every team can become a lot bigger, they can do a lot more. They're like, but who's going to buy? We're still going to have the same amount of people. What do you think about that?
I think it's temporary, a temporary effect right now, that this is the natural conclusion for the short term. We keep things stable and we're trying to figure out how the market develops. But very quickly, I think we're going to see people that say, well, wait a second, if I have one more productive developer, why wouldn't I hire another one and another one? And in fact, AI has already added more work to the backlogs, right? Like I haven't seen companies saying, well, we're draining all our backlog and we have almost nothing left. And soon enough, AI is so powerful that all the ideas are implemented and we're just sitting around doing nothing. I think the reality is AI, all these models, all these agents, the path to AGI ultimately means that we have more work to do. I said this morning that I believe 90% of all code is going to be written by agents.
Yeah.
And that sounds like we take away 90% of the work from developers and they're only left with 10%. But if the total amount of code is growing by 10x, right now the agent has 9x and the developer still has their 1x that they had before. And so you can keep going with that logic, and you see that ultimately those companies are successful that use AI to accelerate, not to cut costs.